What's going on, guys? My name is Omega and welcome back to another Apex Legends video. So in today's video, we're actually going to be taking a look at the origin story for every original legend in Apex. I'm probably going to have another video coming out in the future talking about the newer legends and their origin story, but I thought putting them all in one video would be way too long, so that's why we are splitting it up today. So what we're going to be looking at is all of the 8 legends and specifically why they joined the Apex games, their biggest role throughout the story, as well as where I think these legends will be in the future of the lore. Now, starting with Bangalore. So Bangalore's real name is Anita Williams. She was born on the planet of Gridiron and is now currently 38 years old. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, Gridiron is a significant planet from the Titanfall series and also has many connections to the lore in Apex Legends. It's also the same planet that Loba told Revenant she sent his source code to.
And I took it to one of those lovely phase runners. I had no idea how far they reach. Press of a button and just like that, your source code's halfway to Gridiron.
Now, we don't know for sure if Loba was telling the truth in this instance, or if she was just exaggerating the distance since Gridiron would take years and years to travel to, but according to Bangalore, Gridiron is where the final battle of the Frontier War happened, with apparently no survivors remaining. From the lore, we do know that after the Battle of Gridiron, Bangalore and her brother Lieutenant Jackson were on the IMS Hasita before it was attacked by an unknown assailant. Bangalore's brother Jackson saved Bangalore's life when he shielded her from an explosion that happened on the ship. Bangalore watched as her brother was sucked out into space before the ship crashed on a syndicate planet nearby. Final moments of her brother's life were actually copied in a newspaper article that can be found on the Apex Legends website. The title of the article was "The War with No End, the Frontier War Cover-Up." Now, what's interesting about this newspaper article is that whoever wrote it is suggesting that Bangalore might be responsible for her brother's death in some way, or she might at least know something about what happened that she is not telling anyone. The reporter also wrote that Bangalore said that her brother was still alive, which makes him think that her brother's death could be much more sinister, as if she might be trying to cover up something that happened to him. Now, Bangalore is currently fighting in the Apex games in order to raise enough money so that she can hire a pilot to take her back home to visit her family. The problem is not only how expensive a trip like this would cost, but also finding someone who would be willing to travel that far of a distance, as it could take years and years to complete. Manny, who is one of the Apex Legends writers, made a tweet last year saying Bangalore still does not have enough money to make this trip, and she has yet to find anyone who is willing to take her. Now, what's interesting is that in the current season that we're in right now, Bangalore has a voice line interaction with Loba when the two are located next to the crash ship on Kings Canyon. Bangalore says all of this feels like a big joke, and right around April Fool's Day, Jackson's favorite holiday, he'd get a sick kick out of these guys. And then Loba laughs and says he sounds like your worst nightmare. Now, this is pretty important because Bangalore as a character rarely opens up to anyone regarding her past. However, we do know from the lore she has developed a very close relationship with Loba. We also know that after Loba fought Revenant and told him where she sent his source code, Revenant said that he was going to kill someone who was very important to her. It's possible that Revenant could be thinking about, hurting Bangalore or doing something to Bangalore after seeing how close her and Loba have gotten over the years. It's also entirely possible that maybe Revenant and Bangalore could team up in order to go to Gridiron together. Now, this is kind of more of a stretch, but it is possible because Revenant would then be able to destroy his source code, and Bangalore could potentially find more answers about what happened to her family. Now, moving on to Lifeline. Lifeline's real name is AJ Shea, who was born on Samathi and is currently 24 years old. Her parents' names are Darian and Charisse Shea, and they profited heavily from the Frontier War as they were selling weapons to both sides. This made Lifeline leave her family at one point to join the Frontier Corps, which is basically a humanitarian organization that aids people in need. However, after the war, the Frontier Corps needed continued funding, which meant Lifeline had to join the Apex games in order to donate her winnings. Now, this is definitely interesting because Lifeline at her core is obviously someone who wants to help others. The fact that she left her family at such a young age knows that she has deep morals and wants to help as many people as she can. On the other side of things, she also participates in the Apex games and isn't afraid to kill anyone standing in her way. Now, for those that don't know, Lifeline and Octane actually grew up on the same planet together. Both of their parents were also friends as children growing up. Apparently, Lifeline's dad attended the same preschool as Octane's dad, so there's definitely a deep history between these two families. When Octane first entered the games, we learned that Lifeline was the one who bought him his robotic legs after he used a grenade to launch himself to beat a world record held at the Gauntlet. Lifeline was mad at Octane for a while due to the fact that he had run off off after getting his new legs, and because he lied about his father from Silva Pharmaceuticals, who offered Octane a job. Now if we jump ahead to season 7, we learn that Octane, Lifeline, and Gibraltar attend a party on Samathi in order to obtain a battery pack from Lifeline's father. Lifeline's parents seem to just be putting on a front when interacting with their daughter, which was later confirmed when Lifeline's mother threatened to murder all of the Frontier Corps if Lifeline didn't pretend to act happy to see them. That is... Jesus, she is a horrible mother. But the party was then attacked by Cretan and some mercenaries that he had hired, which is when we learned that Charisse, Lifeline's mother, has connections to the Salvonian warlord whose name is Sandringham Kelly. He was the one who ratified the mercenary syndicate treaty that allowed Salvo to join syndicate space, which essentially caused Fuse to join the games as a representative of Salvo, as well as the ceremony ship getting blown out of the sky by Maggie. It's possible that Lifeline's mother has this connection with the Salvonian warlord in order to help her family profit from some kind of war that might be starting in the future. It's definitely a little bit sketchy, so I'm sure Lifeline's mom is going to have an important role in the story, coming in the next couple seasons. Now, moving on to Caustic. So Caustic's real name is Alexander Knox, and he was born on the planet Gia and is currently 48 years old. His parents were Arthur Rutherford Knox and Katerina Tisakek Knox, which is something that should definitely be noted for later. Now, Alexander Knox originally worked as a scientist for Humbert Labs, specifically the production of pesticide gases. Alexander started to test the effect of his gases on human subjects, which was later discovered by the head of Humbert Labs, Dr. Franklin Humbert. The confrontation led Alexander to burn down the labs, with everyone still inside. Detective Victor Maldera was assigned to the Alexander Knox investigation, in which the detective still believed that Alexander was still alive, but he couldn't prove it because 2 of Alexander's fingers were found at the crime scene. It wasn't until Victor ran into Pathfinder when he discovered that Alexander Knox was still alive, but now going as Caustic, participating in the Apex games. In the same cinematic, we also found clues that suggest that Caustic and Crypto might potentially be stepbrothers. This hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but fans believe this to be true because we know that a woman named Mystique owns the Tisakek orphanage and is the same woman who raised Crypto and his foster sister as a baby. Now, Tisakek is also the middle name of Katerina Knox, who's Caustic's mother. Mystique and Caustic were also born on the same planet of Gia. And then finally, when Victor is hunting for Alexander Knox, there's a picture of Mystique with the caption, "Where is Mom?" Now, when we jump ahead to season 5, Caustic has a very important role in the story. In the questline, Crypto was accused by Caustic of being the mole who was giving information to Revenant about the Legend's plan to help Loba assemble the artifact. He did this because he saw Crypto and Watson getting close to each other, and he did not want Crypto to interfere with her important work. It wasn't until later revealed to us that Caustic was actually the mole the entire time. He betrayed Crypto because he saw him getting close to Watson, and he didn't want Crypto interfering with her work, mainly because he didn't trust or like Crypto at all. We also learned in season 5 that Caustic, for a period of time, worked at Vincent Dynamics, Vincent Dynamics being the same company that recreated Ash as a simulacrum after the Battle of Typhon. Now, moving on to Gibraltar. Gibraltar's real name is Makoa Gibraltar, and he was born on the planet Solus, which is the same planet that King's Canyon is located on. Gibraltar's parents were volunteers for the SARAS, which was a rescue organization based on Solus. Gibraltar worked with his parents often and became very good at rescuing people from dangerous situations in the Outlands. As a young adult, however, Gibraltar had more of a wild side. He met a guy named Nicholas, who later on became his boyfriend. The two shared their first kiss at Thunderdome on Kings Canyon, but were later involved in a horrible accident after the two of them had stolen Gibraltar's father's motorcycle. The two got caught in a mudslide and had to be rescued by Gibraltar's dad, who lost his arm in the process. During that time, Gibraltar's boyfriend Nicholas took the blame for everything and ended up serving time in juvie because of it. Now, throughout the lore, we see Gibraltar as kind of like the cool-headed guy that gets along with basically everybody. He even took the time to write Watson a letter in the season 5 questline, telling her the truth that Caustic was the mole. Now, he didn't do this because he wanted to rat out Caustic, rather he just wanted Watson to know the truth. There's even voice lines of Gibraltar telling Caustic that he is there for him if he wants to talk about what happened with Watson. Now, Gibraltar was definitely a big part of the Season 7 lore, as he was with Lifeline and Octane when they attended the party hosted by Lifeline's parents. In this comic, Gibraltar runs into his ex-boyfriend Nicholas, where he tries to apologize for everything that happened between them in the past. Nicholas gets upset when reliving these memories, but is also surprised that Gibraltar is still carrying around his heirloom, which we learned was made for him by Nicholas when they were still dating. Now, after the party was attacked, Gibraltar tried to rekindle his relationship with Nicholas, in which they agreed agreed to get coffee together as friends. I'm sure this is not going to be the last time we see Gibraltar and his ex-boyfriend together, considering he has such an important part to Gibraltar's story overall. Now moving on to Mirage. Mirage's real name is Elliot Witt and was also born on Solace and is currently 30 years old. Mirage has 3 brothers named Elon, Ricky, and Roger Witt. All of them have since went MIA in the Frontier War. However, he was raised by his mother Evelyn Witt, who was also a famous IMC engineer that specialized in holopilot technology. She's also specifically the one who created the technology that Mirage uses to create decoys in the game. Now, there's also a mention of someone named Grizz Witt, who was Mirage's great-grandfather and is also the one who created their family's famous pork chop recipes. Now, before joining the Apex games, Mirage started working as a bartender at the Paradise Lounge in Solace City. He had heard stories of the Apex games and decided to go out and join himself. One thing that is also interesting to note is that Mirage had actually recruited Pathfinder to join the Apex games after they had met in a bar. More on that later. Now, throughout the last couple of seasons of Apex, recorded messages from Mirage and his mother were added into the game that suggested that his mother was suffering from dementia or some kind of memory loss disease. In one phone message, Mirage had to actually remind his mother who he is because she seems to always remember Mirage, but has to be reminded that Mirage is also her son, Elliot. Another video recorded message was discovered in Season 7 when Mirage Voyage first landed on Kings Canyon. This was another recorded message from Evelyn Witt in which she was talking about Mirage's brothers and mentioned someone named Draws, who is apparently Mirage's uncle. This Draws is also the same Draws from the Titanfall 2 series, who was a pilot working for the 6-4 before becoming a contracted mercenary for the Frontier Militia. Now next up, we're going to talk about Pathfinder. Now, Pathfinder's real name is just Marvin, which isn't really a name, more of just the type of robot that he is. His age is also currently unknown, but he's most likely much older than everyone besides Revenant, because we know that Revenant is a couple hundred years old. Now, his main reason for joining the Apex games is that he can hopefully become famous enough so that he can find out who created him and what his purpose is. Pathfinder's story actually begins on the planet Malta, where he's working as a waiter but ends up accidentally getting into a confrontation with a man who attempts to kill Pathfinder. Luckily, Pathfinder is able to deflect the bullet and save himself, but this catches the attention of the restaurant security guard, who, as you guys know, is Victor Maldera. Victor interrogates Pathfinder, thinking he is some kind of professional hitman, and starts looking through his stored memories. At first, you see a couple random side jobs that Pathfinder got fired from, until Pathfinder plays a clip of him catching Caustic, aka Alexander Knox, after he had burned down Humbert Labs and escaped. Now, the most important clip that was shown throughout the cinematic was a video message from someone named Amelia P, who many believe is related to Watson in some way, just due to her accent and also the way the timeline goes. Now, in this video message, Amelia tells Pathfinder that we created you for a great purpose. This tells us that Pathfinder's creator might be multiple people rather than one individual. Now, I'm aware that some of these things might have already been answered in the Pathfinder lore book that came out earlier this month. I have not actually bought the book myself or read over it, so I can't really give you guys any context for whatever answers Pathfinder may have found. I will be picking up that book very soon and doing a video on that, but for now, this is just all of the free lore that is provided to us through the game. Now, after Pathfinder hears the message from Amelia, they are chased down by QW and the mob who is trying to capture Pathfinder. Victor and Path end up escaping after Victor saves Pathfinder's life, only for Pathfinder to get temporarily injured before shutting off. We get another message at the end of the cinematic from Pathfinder's creator, again saying he was built for a great purpose and that he is proof that the Outlands can survive. Now, while this is the end of the cinematic, this is actually where Pathfinder's story picks up in the lore. Pathfinder eventually wakes up again before meeting Mirage at the Paradise Lounge, where Mirage tells Pathfinder about the Apex games and invites him to join in order to gain fame to look for his creator. Now, throughout the Apex Legends lore, Pathfinder has had a very big influence to the story. He's actually the one who discovered Ash in a dumpster and brought her to the Paradise Lounge after Rampart had moved her shop there in Season 6. In Season 7, Pathfinder also had a very important role as he, Lifeline, Gibraltar, and Octane were at a party hosted by Lifeline's parents in which they were trying to steal a special battery pack to power a Marvin on Olympus that might give Pathfinder more information on his creator. After retrieving the battery pack and powering up the Marvin, an audio file plays from Amelia in which she mentions that Project Iris is ready after receiving funding from Chevrex. Now, Pathfinder's story really does pick up in the Apex Legends lore book, but since I haven't read it yet, I don't want to give you guys any clues or context on stuff that I can't really talk about. So I will be planning on getting that book soon and giving a full comprehensive review on it, but as for right now, we're going to end the video here because I'm not going to be talking about the last two legends, Wraith and Bloodhound, just because in my origin story for every heirloom video, I did go into very big detail about the origin story for both of those legends. So if you are interested in learning more about either Wraith or Bloodhound, I will leave a link to that video down in the description below. I cover it at the very beginning, so you guys won't have to skip through anything to get that information. But anyways, thank you guys for watching today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to drop a like down below, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Have a great day. Peace out.